In a world drowning in noise, where attention spans dwindle to mere seconds, we're told to aim for small, digestible content. 5-minute devotionals, bite-sized summaries, fleeting thoughts. But what if one man, born in the bustling heart of commerce, decided to ignore all conventional wisdom and, instead, aim to evangelize the entire planet? Not just a city, not just a nation, but every single person on Earth. What if he then proceeded to build the infrastructure to make it happen? Imagine a yellow booklet, simple, unassuming, perhaps found tucked into a pew or handed to you by a stranger on a college campus. It holds 4 points, concisely laid out. Now, imagine that booklet being printed not 1,000,000 times, not 100 million times, but over 2.5 billion times. That's more copies than the Bible itself. It's a number so staggering, it almost loses meaning. Yet, this little booklet is just one facet of a colossal, relentless, global enterprise spearheaded by a man who started with nothing but a promise and an audacious idea, Bill Bright. This isn't just the story of a preacher, it's the story of a spiritual entrepreneur, a visionary who saw the Great Commission not as a quaint religious ideal, but as a global logistics challenge. A CEO of the kingdom, if you will, who signed a personal contract with God, making himself a slave of Jesus Christ, and then proceeded to recruit an army. Our story begins far from the hallowed halls of divinity schools, not in the quiet solitude of a prayer closet, but in the vibrant, ambitious landscape of 1940s California. Bill Bright was not born into ministry. He was born in Coweta, Oklahoma, in 1921, into a world of cotton and commerce. From an early age, he possessed an innate drive, a sharp mind for business, and an almost restless ambition. He wasn't content with the ordinary. He moved to Los Angeles, a city synonymous with dreams, glamour, and the relentless pursuit of success. And succeed, he did. Bright built a thriving gourmet food business, importing exotic goods, selling to high-end department stores, and even supplying to Hollywood elite. He was a quintessential American success story, young, dynamic, prosperous. He had the sharp suits, the beautiful wife, Vonette, a partner in every sense of the word, and a future that promised ever greater material rewards. He was, by all accounts, living the American dream. But beneath the polished exterior of the successful businessman, a different kind of hunger stirred. It wasn't for more profits or grander estates. It was a spiritual yearning, a growing conviction that there was something profoundly missing. He and Vonette were active in their church, but it felt insufficient. They yearned for a deeper connection, a more potent purpose. In 1951, a pivotal year, Bill Bright made a decision that would forever alter the trajectory of his life, and indeed, the lives of billions around the globe. He signed a document, not a legal contract with a business partner, but a deeply personal, spiritual covenant with God. He called it My Life Commitment. In it, he declared himself a slave of Jesus Christ and pledged to do nothing, own nothing, and say nothing that would bring shame or discredit to his holy name. He committed himself fully, without reservation, to living by faith and dedicating every fiber of his being to Christ. This wasn't a casual prayer. It was a total surrender, a strategic repositioning of his entire existence. He wasn't just joining a ministry. He was becoming the ministry. It was this radical commitment, this unyielding holy ambition, that would fuel everything that followed. Immediately after this commitment, a clear, almost audacious vision began to take root in his mind. Reach the students of the world. Why students? Because Bright, with his entrepreneurial foresight, understood leverage. Students were the future leaders, the cultural shapers, the change makers. Win the campus today, he reasoned. Win the world tomorrow. The setting for this grand experiment was UCLA, the sprawling, sun-drenched campus of the University of California, Los Angeles. Alongside Vonette, Bright launched what would become Campus Crusade for Christ. Their office was their tiny apartment, their staff was themselves, and their budget was sheer faith and whatever resources they could scrounge. Imagine the skepticism. Here was a businessman with no formal theological training, attempting to evangelize a major university campus renowned for its intellectualism and burgeoning secularism, with a method he was essentially inventing on the fly. It was audacious, perhaps even foolhardy, to the cynical eye. But Bill Bright was not easily deterred. He wasn't relying on traditional methods alone. He was a systems thinker. He realized that for evangelism to be effective on a massive scale, it needed to be clear, repeatable, and easily transferable. It needed a product. This need led to the creation of the now iconic little yellow booklet, The 4 Spiritual Laws. The concept was revolutionary in its simplicity. It distilled the complex tenets of the Christian faith into 4 easily understandable points. God loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life. Man is sinful and separated from God. Jesus Christ is God's only provision for man's sin. We must individually receive Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord. No theological jargon, no complex doctrines, just a clear, concise pathway to understanding and accepting Christ. It was a masterpiece of communication, designed for mass distribution and personal conversation. It empowered ordinary individuals to share their faith confidently. This wasn't just a book, it was a tool, a blueprint for evangelism that could be picked up by anyone, anywhere, and used effectively. The impact was immediate and profound. Students on campus, many of whom had never seriously considered Christianity, found the message accessible. The movement grew. From UCLA, it spread to other campuses across California, then across the nation. Bright's vision was infectious. He didn't just recruit people to a cause, he equipped them with a methodology and a passion for reaching others. As the 1960s unfolded, Campus Crusade for Christ began its global expansion. Bright's entrepreneurial mindset kicked in. He wasn't content with just a few missionaries. He envisioned thousands, tens of thousands. He developed sophisticated training programs, robust fundraising strategies, and a structure that could support a rapidly expanding international organization. This was no longer just about students. It was about every person on earth. One of the most audacious and impactful projects to emerge from Bright's vision was the Jesus film. In the early 1970s, Bright conceived of a film that would depict the life of Jesus accurately, directly from the Gospel of Luke, and make it accessible to every language group on the planet. The scale of this undertaking was mind-boggling. It cost millions of dollars, raised through faith and fervent appeals, involved meticulous historical research, and unprecedented efforts in translation and distribution. While Hollywood was chasing Oscars with blockbusters and cinematic spectacle, one man was building a cinema network in the middle of jungles and deserts. The Jesus film was not made for box office glory. It was made for global evangelism. It was meticulously translated, scene by scene, into hundreds, then thousands of languages. Special projectors were developed to allow for screenings in remote villages without electricity. Teams would carry equipment on their backs, traverse dangerous terrain, and brave difficult conditions to show this film. The results are, once again, almost unbelievable. The Jesus film has been translated into over 1,900 languages and has been viewed by an estimated billions of people worldwide. It stands as the most translated and most watched film in human history. It broke down literacy barriers, cultural barriers, and linguistic barriers, bringing the story of Jesus directly to people in a way no other medium had before. It wasn't just a film, it was a global phenomenon, a testament to Bright's relentless pursuit of his holy ambition. Beyond the 4 spiritual laws and the Jesus film, Bright cultivated an environment of innovation within Campus Crusade for Christ. He understood that different contexts required different approaches. He launched initiatives targeting athletes, athletes in action, inner-city communities, military personnel, politicians, and business leaders. He was a master of strategic deployment, always seeking the most effective way to communicate his core message. He also organized massive conferences and events. One of the most significant was Explo 72, held in Dallas, Texas. It was an unprecedented gathering of over 80,000 students and church leaders, aimed at training them in evangelism and discipleship. It was a spiritual boot camp on a scale rarely seen, a testament to Bright's belief in equipping and mobilizing the masses. Bright's leadership wasn't without challenges. Running a global organization of that magnitude, dependent on donations and volunteers, meant constant financial pressures, organizational complexities, and the inevitable skepticism from various quarters. Yet, his unwavering faith and his foundational contract with God kept him focused. He truly believed he was a slave of Jesus. and that belief freed him from the need for personal recognition or comfort. His ambition was purely for the kingdom. He surrounded himself with leaders who shared his passion, developing a culture of relentless pursuit of the Great Commission. He taught that holy ambition was not a sin, but a virtue when directed by God. He challenged people to think big, to dream big, to act big for God. He recognized that while individual spiritual formation, like Ravenhill's deep prayer life, was crucial, organized systematic effort was also necessary to tackle the monumental task of world evangelization. By the end of his life, Bill Bright's initial vision, sparked in that small apartment in 1951, had blossomed into an empire of faith. Campus Crusade for Christ operated in 190 countries with over 25,000 full-time staff and hundreds of thousands of volunteers. It had trained millions, distributed billions of pieces of literature, and brought the story of Jesus to more people than any other organization in history. Even as his health declined in his later years, Bill Bright's passion never waned. Confined to an oxygen tank, he continued to dictate books, cast vision, and strategize for the future of the ministry. He was still the slave of Jesus, right up to his passing in 2003. His epitaph, inscribed on his grave, succinctly summarizes his entire life's work and identity: a slave of Jesus. Some lessons from his life include: think bigger than your lifetime. Bill Bright didn't aim for a city. He aimed for the world. He saw the Great Commission not as inspiration, but as an objective. Application: stop building for applause. Build for generational impact. Design your work so it outlives you. Think global. Think scalable. Think eternal. Radical commitment comes before radical impact. Before the movement, there was a contract. Bill Bright signed a personal covenant declaring himself a slave of Jesus Christ. Private surrender preceded public scale. Application: consecrate before you expand. Decide what you will never compromise. Let conviction shape your calling. Deep roots produce wide reach. Clarity multiplies, complexity does not. The 4 spiritual laws was simple, repeatable, transferable. That simplicity allowed billions of copies to be distributed. Application: simplify your message. Create tools others can use without you. If it cannot be repeated, it cannot multiply. Make it clear, make it usable, make it scalable. Use media as infrastructure, not decoration. The Jesus film was not entertainment, it was strategy. It was translated into thousands of languages and shown in remote villages worldwide. Media became mission infrastructure. Application: treat your platforms as pipelines. Create evergreen content. Build distribution systems. Use technology to remove barriers. Start small but design for expansion. Campus Crusade for Christ began in a small apartment. 2 people, no budget, big vision. The beginning was small, the thinking was not. Application: don't despise small starts, but design for growth from day one. Document processes. Build systems early. Turn vision into strategy. Bill Bright didn't just pray for the world. He asked, how many languages? How many campuses? How many leaders? How do we fund it? Faith met logistics. Application: break your calling into measurable steps. Plan, track, adjust. Strategy does not replace faith, it expresses it. Holy ambition is not ego. Bill Bright was ambitious, but not for himself. His epitaph reads, a slave of Jesus. His ambition was surrendered. Application: check your motive. Are you building influence or impact? Are you chasing visibility or obedience? Let your ambition serve eternity. 1 man, 1 signed covenant, 1 small apartment, billions reached. The question is not whether you can build. The question is, what covenant is driving what you build? Bill Bright didn't just build an organization, he built a movement. He didn't just write a booklet, he launched a global communication strategy. He didn't just make a film, he provided a universal touchpoint for billions. He was a man who embraced radical commitment and holy ambition, demonstrating that immense spiritual impact can come from systematic planning, strategic execution, and unwavering faith. His life leaves us with a profound challenge. If one man, starting from a tiny apartment with a signed contract with God, could spark a movement that reached billions, what would happen if you signed your life away to a vision bigger than yourself? What would happen if you truly embraced the idea of being a slave of Jesus, utterly committed to a cause beyond your own comfort and ambition? Bill Bright proved that the impossible is merely a matter of scale, strategy, and unshakable faith in a God who empowers the truly ambitious. His legacy continues to challenge us, not just to believe, but to do, to strategize, to build, to reach, to make a definitive impact for a cause that transcends every border and every generation.